Okay, so I got cut off there in the last video, and I just need a couple more minutes to wrap up these last two slides. The reference here to the idea that Ronald McDonald wins the Cold War is an emphasis that with the overseas expansion of multinational companies that came, with more and more countries integrating themselves into the global economy and creating freer systems, there was a spread of mass market lifestyles and the consumer ethic, especially one that a lot of people, through the programs of détente, greater travel, and cultural exchange between communist and non-communist countries, came into contact with. And in their contact with this industrial produced food, they didn't notice problems like environmental strains. Instead, what they saw in Western countries like France and the United States was culinary diversity, freedom of choice, individualism in terms of greater technology. They didn't worry about public health. Instead, what they saw things like McDonald's and Ronald McDonald's as was the symbol of the good life that was impossible to achieve under a centrally planned or socialist model. And so that, along with the kind of overall ideological impression that capitalism could deliver greater wealth through engagement and freer trade, the socialist model was looked at as outdated, but also unresponsive to needs like things for family-friendly fun, leisurely lifestyles, and also the convenience of fast food drive-thrus. This in part explains why these fast food chains like McDonald's in the Soviet Union and Kentucky Fried Chicken in the People's Republic of China in Beijing were thronged with people waiting to get a chance at them when they opened their initial storefronts in these capitals of the communist bloc. Okay, to wrap this up then, what we're seeing with the Reagan counteroffensive is not necessarily that the economic warfare dealt deadly blows to the Soviet system. It's more that it actually created and helped sponsor a much larger global economy, one that the Soviets and socialist nations, with their own economies struggling under central planning, worried that they were missing out on the chance to achieve prosperity, growth, and to continue to modernize. And so socialist states, following countries like the People's Republic of China and later Vietnam, tried to open up their economies and reduce the scope of the government and planners and instead implement market-oriented solutions. Within the capitalist blocs, the three blocs, North America, Western Europe, and East Asia under the leadership of Japan, and in Southeast Asia through regional blocs such as ASEAN, you saw them working together to establish economic rules, resolve disputes, and implement trade and exchange relationships that made these dynamic centers. They also had lots of political problems. So the whole moniker of free trade is slightly misleading. It doesn't happen without a lot of political will, determination, and cooperation. Instead, there is actually quite a bit of construction and cooperation and institution building necessary to actually create a free trade zone. With that growth, with the decline of the socialist model in the 1980s, you also see a flood of new states and formerly socialist regimes instituting dramatic reforms to leap into the global economy. And as that happens, it's almost a domino effect, not one like we saw in East and Southeast Asia with the Vietnam War and the Korean War, but one in which it seems as if there is only one model that works, and if you don't quickly force your country to undergo a capitalist transformation, you risk being left out in the cold. And that eventually is what's going to bring about the rise of politicians like Mikhail Gorbachev, who are seeking not to abandon communism or end communism, but to create some kind of new fusion between a party communist leadership and a market-oriented free trade association of new states and old states that will not kill communism, but revive it and help lead it into the 21st century. Okay. So in my next video, I'll also probably talk a little bit about how to take your prospectus and your annotated bibliography, put those things together towards making a rough draft. What I've seen from the annotated bibliographies and the prospectus is very, very strong, and a lot of you seem to be in very good shape. As always, email me with questions, things you didn't understand from the lectures and these materials, and thanks for plodding through these. Stay safe and be well.